Hi guys, Ken here, Postcards from Cebu, and today I'm gonna answer some questions. I get a lot of questions from folks in the comments regarding marriage abroad or getting married to a Filipina in the Philippines versus say bringing your fiance to the U.S. and getting married here. And then a lot of people that say they're getting married at the U.S. Embassy, which I found a little strange. So I checked on the State Department's website, and they specifically say they do not perform weddings outside of the U.S. I didn't know they did it inside the U.S., but it makes sense because they are not Filipinos. The State Department people, maybe some of them are, but most the people that perform marriages generally have some kind of legal authority to do so, which is why, like when Vivian and I got married, it was in front of a judge. That authority is also passed on to priests and other pastors and religious authorities, if you will. Who also can perform marriages. But just some random person at the embassy is not legally authorized to perform a wedding. So if you think that that's what you want to do, then I would highly recommend that you contact the embassy ahead of time and make sure it's good to go. I don't believe it is, at least not based on what the State Department website says. They cannot perform any weddings at the U.S. Embassy. So you might want to check on that. The other question I get a lot of is the differences between getting married in the Philippines or bringing your fiance to the U.S. and getting married here. And so I made some notes, and we can run down that little bit if you want. There are a lot of requirements to getting married, whether it's here or in the Philippines, quite frankly. And you're going to need to have all your documentation lined up. Birth certificates, divorce papers if you've ever been divorced, or death certificates if you're a widow, that kind of stuff. You'll need to have all that available. Just for the wedding, and then you're going to need all that documentation again for the immigration process. So the difference between immigrating your wife and immigrating your fiance is the way the U.S. government looks at that particular person. In the case of a wife, that they call that an immigrant visa. She's a family member. She's already your wife, and so she is immigrating to the United States. A fiancé is not an immigrant until she gets here and gets married, and then you have to apply for a what they call an adjustment of status. But you don't have to adjust status on a wife. She's already your wife. And such was actually pretty cool because when Vivian arrived, there's a box that you check on the form. They had already issued her a social security number. The green card was already in the mail. They put a stamp in her passport that said CR1. They gave her, basically, that was her temporary green card until her permanent one came. CR1 stands for conditional resident, and the conditional part is if you've been married less than 2 years. And in the case of Vivian, we got married in January of 2016, and she immigrated in December of 2016. So that was less than a year. If you've been married longer than 2 years, then you would get an IR1. IR stands for immediate relative, and you would get an IR1 visa. Okay, so, and then you don't have to go with the CR1 visa. After 2 years, you do have to go back and interview with the USCIS to make sure that everything's copacetic in your marriage and all that good stuff. From what I understand, they asked some revealing questions. Unfortunately, in my case, we never made it to that point. So for now, the fiancé visa, they say takes a little less time, so it can be a little faster to immigrate a fiance, or to bring a fiance to the United States than it is to bring a wife. In our case, with Vivian and I, it took about 10 months, the whole process. So others are telling me that it can be a little shorter, 6 to 8 months for a fiance. The costs are pretty similar. I mean, some of these are the same. In the case of a wife, you file an I-130 form with USCIS. In the case of a fiance, you would file an I-129F form to get permission to bring your fiance to the United States. It's interesting how they call these forms petitions. And even as a U.S. citizen, we have to petition our government to allow for my wife or your fiance to come to the United States. Kind of interesting language there. I'm not sure what I think of that, but it is what it is. So we've got to play by the rules. All in all, it's going to cost a couple of grand. Either way, a couple of $1,000 US. I just recently looked up the cost of the medical exam at St. Luke's in Manila is 17,025 pesos, which is still like $340. So that's pricey as well. The sum of the fees that you have to pay for spousal visa for the I-130 or the CR1 visa is about $2,060. And when you add in the adjustment of status that has to happen with a fiancé, it ends up being $2,365. So it's a little more expensive, but it saves a little time to go the fiancé route if you're not already married. If you're already married, you really don't have any choice. So anyway, I thought I'd give you that rundown. Feel free to leave any comments in the comment section below. Ask questions. I'm happy to deal with those. Please like and share this video. Help get the word out about the channel. I appreciate that very much. And up there, you're going to see a picture of me. Somebody told me not to say my ugly mug, but you'll see my ugly mug up there. Click on it, subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Goodbye.